Okay, I think we are live on YouTube. So welcome everybody. This is the Node.js Build Working Group, and this is our last meeting of September, if I'm not wrong. Today is 18th of September, 2024, and yeah, we have a few things in the agenda today. So let me also share the meetings note in the chat. Yeah, first of all, okay, please add your name to the agenda so we can have you there. Let me add my name as well. And let's see. First of all, there is any announcements that we want to make? Yeah, I think probably no announcements. Okay, so then our first topic in the agenda is the issue 3854, which is related to the Node.js STF future state, which I think is related to the presentation that Ryan did the last week, if I'm correct. Yeah. I mean, last week in the last meeting. Not very sure if there was something else remaining for this. So we keep it in the agenda.
I don't know that there were any further actions.
Yeah, yeah, I think
Felt
the
that
idea
was a
was to
sort
the
of
presentation, but
informational
yeah,
presentation with very little. I mean, it feels like it's still a work in progress. You know, this is
yeah, there are some work related on the documentation on how to like open the tickets and stuff like that. So that part is, I think, like ongoing thing from Ryan, but I think aside of that, we can probably remove it from the agenda.
I would think so, unless Ryan wants to keep it to keep to keep give updates. But other than that, I don't think there's anything the rest of us really have to discuss there. So yeah, I'd probably suggest taking the agenda tag off.
Yeah, let me add a note. So also, please add it if needed. Okay, yeah, I added a comment, remove it from the agenda, and I added a comment for Ryan. Okay, so that's good. I think so in this case it's going to be like no updates. Okay, so the next one is planning and requirements for Node.js 23, which is start to getting closer the date.
Next month. Uh, yeah. As far as GCC 12 and the sort of Linux and Unix platforms goes, I think the only one remaining is SmartOS, which I'm hopeful. I don't know for definite. So SmartOS is caught up in the Equinix migration issue, which I can't remember if that's still on the agenda or not. Yeah, it is a couple of items down.
Yep.
So my understanding is that the new replacement machines for the SmartOS machines are at newer versions of SmartOS than we currently have in the CI. And those newer versions of SmartOS, at least one of them has a later version of GCC. I think it was 13 rather than 12, but you know, a new enough one that's greater than 12. So there is work to do to get the
Yeah.
builds working on the newer version of SmartOS, but I'm hopeful that given that we have to migrate to those anyway, and the existing machines, you know, are going away at some point, that and also we don't produce binaries on SmartOS on
Mhm.
Node.js.org, so we are still running the CIs, but it's not. I would say there's a path through where, you know, if we can't get the builds working, we can temporarily take them out of the CI and put them back in when they're working, and not disrupt releases. So
Yeah.
it is something that, you know, hopefully will you know get resolved. But that's the only platform I'm aware of that we haven't updated in terms of GCC. And then I'm not really certain of where we are on Windows and Mac OS. I
Yeah.
think Windows probably is okay as it is. I don't think we're going to make a switch to CLang. So I think there's some patches to make it possible to build on CLang, but I don't think we're ready to commit to changing to building on that for the releases. So I think for the time being, we're still going to build the releases on
Mhm.
Visual Studio and then yeah, who knows? At some point, presumably, we'll switch to CLang because the Visual Studio has been deprecated in upstream V8. Um, so I just suspect
Yeah.
I have be forced, but I think right this moment it didn't sound from the last updates that we were ready to make that switch right now. But if anyone else is listening to this or knows otherwise,
Yeah.
and yeah, I did open an issue to update the building doc in the core repo to reflect the changes that we made already. And I did sort of make a note in there that I expect we'll bump the Mac OS versions, either the OS and or Xcode, but I don't know what those are definitely going to be yet. So I proposed we land the changes that we know about, and we follow up with a further update once we know what we're doing.
Yep.
OS.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, it's a very good summary. Yeah, I think we still have a bit of time because I think I was checking the release repo and seems like the initial release proposal date with my delay a little bit is the 15th of October. So we technically have like a month, probably less if we want to do a release by that day. Probably we need to have like everything set up at least 1 week before.
So December majors, we usually try and hit the date. Um, it's not normally a it's not normally an aim for and an overshoot. It's usually a try and hit that date,
Yeah.
mainly because the foundation has a whole bunch of marketing involved. Um,
Oh, true. Yeah.
so it's not impossible to move that date, but it's sort of the
Yeah.
whole try to gear up to hit that. So yeah, if we could try and aim to get things, I guess by at least the first week of October, I'll be pushing it a bit, but ideally
Yeah.
soon. Um,
Yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah, I think that one of the biggest changes for us will be like macOS. Yeah, I will jump into that in a soon, I guess. Yeah. So yeah, macOS can be a little bit challenging. Okay, so let's see. So I think in terms of topic, yeah, next one okay, next one is macOS. I can give a little overview on how we are so far. So it's the issue 3686, which is more or less the Orca planning. I think, yeah, let me see. Yeah, honestly, the most relevant thing here is this piece. Let me share the link for this on this comment, which is the most relevant actually. Most updated info. Okay. So yeah, basically the current status is we did the setup in terms of the Jenkins, in terms of the VPN. We create the image template for most of the things. And recently we have been started to work on, thanks to Michael, on working on trying to run these machines on the current CI. So we basically made clones of the jobs. So there are plenty of jobs where macOS is used. So we have like no V8 like Node itself releases and so on. So we clone all of them. My idea is to start running the new VMs and see if we are missing if we can run them successfully, and if something fail, why it's failing. So most of the cases, like we are missing dependencies like tap to unit or XE stuff like that. So basically, we are like improving the images until we can just got a green version of all of those. So that's the current process. I'm going to be in holidays like next week. So basically, I'm going to be back next Thursday, which is not a lot of time for us, but yeah, we'll be back like on the 26th. So in the meantime, I was talking with Ryan to see if he can continue doing this job and see if we can make some progress. And basically, when that's ready, the next step for us is just basically start to use the tags for that we use currently for macOS 10, 15, 11, and so on the cloud agents, and just basically we have done the migration. Worth mentioning that anyway, we will need to discuss with Mac Stadium to provision more nodes because at this point, one of the challenges is like we have two clusters, but the new cluster only have two nodes. And they are capable of running just, for example, in one ARM node, we are only capable of running like two instances at the same time. And the same goes for the Intel one. The Intel one, we can run even up to four. But Depends more on the hardware. In the ARM, we depend a lot on the software limitations. So basically, we'll need to ask them to provision more nodes just for the last period, and then we just sunset the other ones. But yeah, so that will require maybe, I don't know, like few days from their side to provide and to connect the nodes and configure them in Kubernetes and all of these things. So we might need also some time. So we might be a little bit tight for the release of 23. That's my biggest concern on this. We are not that far, but still.
Is this still just the test CI? We're not looking at the release yet, or
It's integrated already in the release CI, and
okay, all right.
we are trying to do like a nightly or at least test release just to see
Yeah,
if we
okay,
can
fair.
sign properly. So far we have some problems with the dependencies. Probably it's related because I didn't create like a specific IOTS user on the images. So maybe that's one of the challenges that we face now, that we are not in the same namespace and stuff like that, workspace. But yeah. We'll figure it out, but yeah, that's more or less what happened. So, but yeah, but the setup is made in both Jenkins, so that
Okay.
piece is covered. Yeah, that's more or
In
less.
terms of builds, we don't build V8. Oh, sorry, we don't run the V8 CI on macOS.
Yeah, but we run other things, right? Like Canary in the Gold Mine and
We
things
do
like that.
well. We were running CitGem and yeah, Node
Switching,
builds
yeah.
and libuv build. No, is that right? I'm trying to remember if we ran libuv builds in macOS.
I think
I
we
kind
run
of assume we
LibUV.
did, but I
May
can't remember.
Yeah, maybe I mentioned V8, but probably it's libv, the one that we built.
Could be.
But yeah, there is one fork from one of those that we maintain, and we need to run in macOS. I don't remember which one it is, but yeah. So basically, there are like some these kind of jobs, which I think the most critical one is like to have the commit test and the release one working.
Yeah.
That at least the minimum. The other ones we can solve, right? But yeah, so we can prioritize those two things and see what happens. So that way we can decommission later on the hardware. But yeah. Let's see if we can make it. But yeah, I will talk to Ryan just to be sure that we can try to make it by, I don't know, the 7th of October, if that makes sense. So that way we don't have any issue with the release, or maybe it's already too late. Because I think the official date for the release will be like for the 15, which is 15th of October. It's going to be like a Tuesday. Yeah, so idealistically we have that the week before, right? The Monday 7 can be a good option. So we have one full week.
Yeah, it would be nice.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, even yeah, as a release is not that it's not that easy just to have one week, right? So yeah, days are tricky. Let's see if we can have it before that, like maybe by the 3rd, like the Thursday 3rd. I don't know. I will talk with Ryan
Yeah.
offline and see how we can coordinate. But yeah, definitely we don't have that much time. So yeah, that will be a little bit tricky, but yeah. So more or less that's the status on the Orca cluster. So yeah, next thing is the replacements for the Equinix servers. This is the issue 3597, which I'm not very sure what's the status because I was not following that recently.
Yeah, I don't know what the status is, and I would need to talk to Ryan. The last time we talked to him, there was still some one. There was at least one info. He had there was at least one infra machine that he hadn't started migrating, which was the unencrypted server. And then we sort of talked about the SmartOS machines. But again, I don't know that there's been any update or movement there, so I don't know. No updates, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will put no updates so far. Yeah. Okay.
Is there a risk that at some point we just lose all those machines? Or no?
I think we are basically running off goodwill at the moment. So we were asked to move off these at the beginning of the year, and then sort of targeted April, and this is September. I think it it doesn't sound like they're actively trying to push us off, but then, who knows? I don't know if Ryan's had more conversations with Ed or anyone else from Equinix as to an actual time frame for moving off these machines. But yeah, it's I think the last sort of thing I'd seen was like, we're not going to cut you off, but please like don't drag your feet too long on this.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, we did have a burst of things and get most of the stuff migrated, and then there's still one or two things more. The SmartOS things, I kind of feel that's manageable in that, we know the people at MNX who are hosting the replacements. So if the SmartOS machines suddenly get cut, we have the replacement machines, we just don't have them working. So I guess that would refocus efforts on getting those working. Unencrypted, we are still falling back to that in the Cloudflare config, so it would be good to get that migrated. So I think that's probably the only one that we really need to talk to Ryan about, trying to get that moved. And the other servers were kind of, I don't think the Grafana server and the AWX server have been migrated, but again, I don't think many people or anyone's using the AWX server. And Grafana, the most active users seem to be Ryan. So it's kind of, they'll be nice to have, but if they disappear, I don't think it'll be the end of the world. And in theory, those are in Ansible, so we could recreate those if we had a replacement. It doesn't have to be in the MNX cluster. I haven't actually tried recreating the AWX server, but
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think those are critical to the functioning of the project other than unencrypted, and that's only because we're not, it's one of those that we're running it and we just don't have the confidence that it's something we can cut, although we probably could. It's one of those, I don't know.
Yep.
But most of the critical stuff has been, other than unencrypted, has been migrated over. So in terms of risk there, those have been dealt with. So.
Okay, that's a very good summary. Thank you, Richard. I think next one we probably can skip it is the one related to the tarbals, which is the issue 3538 regarding the macOS tarbals. I didn't have the time, honestly, to jump into this. So when I finish with the macOS New Yorker universe, I will jump into this. So hopefully, and that's going to be like the last piece missing for the macOS thing, and that's it. Hopefully for a while.
That hasn't worked for a long time, or I don't know if it ever worked. So
it's hard to detect when it's happening to
Apparently.
some people. To Michael it's happening, for example. In my case, it's not happening to some people. I think depending on the security tweaks on the macOS or whatever, not very sure why. But some people, when try to run the tarbals, they just say something like, the developer is not authenticated. I mean, this kind of thing, like it's not a valid.
Yeah, but it's really not critical even for me. I noted it, but it's.
Yeah, I mean, you can just accept and say, I trust.
The normal use case is not to download the tarball from the website and extract it in the CLI. And
yeah.
Yeah.
So true. So yeah, but this has been like broken for a while. We didn't detect it early probably, but this has been maybe some few versions of macOS maybe since 11 was released or something like macOS 11, no Node 11. So yeah, but yeah, we will just need to dig into the pipeline and solve it. But yeah, not super.
I guess what I'm trying to say is that that's not something that needs to be rushed through for Node 23.
No.
All
not at all.
releases are presumably affected. So if and when
No.
it could be addressed with the tool.
Yeah. As soon as the DMG and PKG files are fine, this is not an issue. So that's fine. And the last topic official in the agenda is the migration of R2.
So we still don't know why the releases don't get promoted. It requires, I don't know. There's got to be an obvious, there's got to be a reason. So the nightlies are getting promoted, and we know that the manually upload, I say manually, the SHA sums that get generated when a releaser does a release are getting promoted. although that sort of happens on its own specific path. But in theory, if the nightlies get promoted, then the releases should be being promoted, but they're not. So I haven't been able to spot why. Loki had a look and couldn't spot why. It looks like it should be working, but it's not.
Without doing a release.
Yeah. So that's the current sticking point, is that the releases are definitely being staged. We can see them in the staging bucket. And it looks like the promotion script should be promoting the stuff from the, we spent a lot of time. So we had to do a few workarounds to get Cloudflare to promote from staging to the release bucket, because they don't fully implement some of the AWS API or something. So there's something to do with the tagging. But we did get it working for the nightlies. So in theory, it should be happening when you trigger the release workflow. But yeah, between us all, we've not yet been able to spot why it's not. And as Michael said, it's really difficult to test without trying to do a release. So yeah.
Yeah, I see. So I mean, like, so far we don't have like a deadline for this, so right? Like, I mean, this is one of the requirements for this to become alive. That's for sure. But we don't have rush.
Yeah, I
right?
mean the reason to do this is to try and so we are still seeing reports of people having temporary issues trying to download binaries from Node.js.org. And if you're on the build, you'll probably see emails from Cloudflare every now and then saying that the primary download server went down for a few seconds or a minute or so. Notwithstanding, the actual Cloudflare outage that happened yesterday, apparently, but just during normal operations. So the goal is to eventually get the primary downloads being served via R2. And yeah, the releases. It'll be nice to have the releases in that bucket. So at the moment they're not. So if you actually go to like the R2 bucket, you can see the SHA sums for the releases, but not the actual binaries for the releases. And we know that they are in the staging bucket. So the question is, why doesn't the flow move them over when they are moving the nightlies, which are going into the staging bucket and are ending up on? So yeah, we would like to get that, in place, because that would take some, it would take the majority of the load off the staging. The node at the infrastructure we're running rather than the R2 infrastructure. And that might make things life easier for releasers who also if that server stops responding. So all around the plan is to try and get there, but this is a blocker because without having the binaries on there, then you go to R2 and there's nothing to actually download.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, I see. Do we need to, I mean, do we need like additional resources or something to unblock this? Do we think it's handled?
I think the problem there is you need the access to be able to
to the Cloudflare.
And even then with access, I think we're all a bit hesitant to try and push things that might not. Especially since like we said, unless you're doing a release, it's actually quite hard to test the release script. And this R2 migration work has broken the release workflow on a few occasions that we've had to do temporary patches to I mean, we always taking the view that if it's broken the release workflow, we just back out whatever was related to R2 to just get the release workflow working again, and then try and rework out why. So that's why it's been slow. And if people want to look at the script, please feel free and welcome and suggest things. Actual access, I think, is going to be trickier because obviously we are quite strict, careful on how open up we make the whole pipeline, because you could do a supply chain attack. If you do something bad on this infra.
It's a big surface.
So yes, while it is true that additional resources will be appreciated, I think there are some practical challenges with just just chucking random people at it. It would have to be either someone that's already well known and embedded in the Node project that wants to spend time on it, preferably in build.
Yeah. Actually, I was
or
thinking
if
like,
someone could just read through, make
yeah,
heads of the script
exactly.
and actually point out, oh, it's not doing what everyone thinks it's doing because of blah. Which
Yeah, I was thinking that maybe we can get like more involvement from the DigitalOcean side, I mean, from the Cloudflare side. So as we have these renew these agreements and stuff, so maybe you can try to
yeah, I
bring
don't
some.
know. I think the biggest unknown at the moment is it that we're not triggering something, and then the question is why are we not triggering it, or is it that we are triggering the right things, and then for some reason that isn't resulting in the copy on the DigitalOcean end. I don't think we've seen anything that suggests that we have triggered, but it's not copying.
Okay,
I think at the moment it probably looks like we're not triggering the copy, but none of us have figured out why.
I see.
And part of this is maybe we need to figure out if there's some way of getting more logging into the system. The problem we have is
Yeah, last
if you
time,
add logging into the
yeah,
script, it screws up the release workflow.
last time we tried, yeah, it broke the release. So yeah.
Yeah,
And
I
I
see.
guess,
But I'd
sorry.
like, I don't know when I will have time to do that, but I'd like to take all those scripts and remove everything that's related to the DigitalOcean files
Okay.
and like do like a real release, but with only the code paths that are supposed to do something with Cloudflare and see what happens. And since it's not in prod, I could do that multiple times, and even if it doesn't copy correctly, it's not a problem.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a good strategy. Yeah.
But yeah,
But yeah, if someone has the time to read the code and suggest changes, I'm happy to test them. The thing I don't really have the time to do is read this code and make
Yeah.
think about the changes.
I'm in a similar position, which is I've got a reasonable understanding of what we've been doing, but all the R2 stuff is new, and things
Yeah.
like your copying and then the copying failing, and then we're trying sort of workarounds to get the copy to. So we've actually had to do the copy in two commands, one which will copy sort of part of the files, and then the other command will copy the rest of them, which appears to work at least with the nightlies, but it's a bit. So yeah, it's
Are we
kind of
sure it works with the nightlies?
well, they do at least appear to be on the R2 download.
I'm on the Cloudflare account right now.
Are you okay? Oh, well, it was one.
Node.js
I mean, it
nightly.
might be broken. But anyway, yeah, maybe that's a suggestion that rather than
Yep.
trying to keep patching up the existing workflow, maybe come up with a parallel workflow that maybe we can have better logging and error handling or whatever it is to try and work out, especially if it does go wrong,
Yep.
better way of working out why.
Yep.
But
That
yeah,
makes.
there's the Cloudflare end, but then there's the our end driving the API to Cloudflare. So it's not. I don't think we can just throw DigitalOcean people at it because they'll be asking, well, what are you doing and how are you doing it,
Yep.
and they'll point to generic documentation, and we've got bespoke ways of we know that the release jobs are copying things here, there, and
Yeah.
and we've tried to insert into the existing scripts, and also while this is copied here, also then do this step.
There are some nightly builds, but not all of them.
Okay.
For example, from the 11th of September, there's nothing in the bucket, but maybe there's nothing as well on DigitalOcean. I don't know.
Yeah, in theory, it should mirror what's in DigitalOcean, but who knows? Without looking into it, if there are no builds in DigitalOcean, then yeah, we definitely wouldn't expect builds in R2.
Yep.
Yeah, it's yeah.
No, there is something on DigitalOcean.
Okay.
So
Yeah, awesome.
it's kind of working, but not every day for the nightly.
That's worrying. Okay. Yeah. Pass it. That will
I don't know.
require someone to look at like I guess at least for the nightlies, you could, if someone has access, they can manually run the promotion, the nightly promotion script, and see if there's any like error output. But again, there might not be that much in the way of error output, but at least that was the way we worked out that not everything was being copied. But yeah, I mean, it was working at some point, but could have broken again, or maybe there's some other things that cause it to not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think even things like I think we're uploading to the staging bucket on R2 directly in the CI jobs, because I think we tweak the make files to do that. So
Yeah,
I think the
so.
nightly should
Yeah.
be running them. Yeah, the IOGS release workflow should be running the make file that should be uploading to the staging bucket. So again, requires someone to go through and look and see, did that succeed for the builds that are missing, or did the upload to R2 staging fail for whatever reason? And then if the upload to staging worked, then the question is, why wasn't it promoted?
The files are in the staging
Okay,
bucket.
so then
You
that
see
sounds
them,
like a
yeah.
promotion that's, yeah. And it's always possible that if promotion breaks in R2, sorry, not in R2, on our own infrastructure. So if for whatever reason the promotion starts and then gets interrupted or breaks, which has been known to happen, that they may not trigger through to attempting the R2 promotion, because I think that happens afterwards. Because it's just a bash script. So if the bash script exits early, it might not get there. But these are all speculations without digging through and looking. So yeah, I guess, yeah, that'll be something to look at, yeah, or at least log in the issue, or an issue for someone else to look at.
Yeah, by the way, this issue that we are discussing, it doesn't seem to be the active one. I don't know where we should discuss that. The last message is from 2023.
Right. Yeah, there is another. I think there's an issue specifically for promotion, for the promotion not working.
Yeah, probably in the repo, right?
Probably I opened it because we were talking in one of the pull requests that we're trying to patch something. And it was like, yeah,
Yeah, I
just
found
didn't
one.
fully do it. So there was another, I think I spun an issue off. So yeah, we could, I'm guessing the most recent discussion happened in there, but then that's probably also probably a month or two or maybe longer old. Because I've got a feeling the last time I looked at any of this was before August. So yeah. Anyway, more work to be done there.
Yep.
It's a short
Definitely.
of that.
That's a good
And
conclusion, yeah.
and again, we'd like to get there. I don't think there's an immediate rush to do it. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
we do know that the existing infrastructure has some issues that are still there, but it is what it is, and we'll try and get to where we want to go.
Yep. Okay, I think that was the last official topic in the agenda today. Do we want to discuss anything else?
No, I guess just for awareness sake, I missed it in the announcements. I did rebalance some of the machines in the CI for a bit. So we had two Ubuntu 16 machines that were still still defining the inventory, but not actually running anything because nothing in the current, nothing in the supported release lines runs on Ubuntu 16. So they were just there and not actually doing anything. So they were hosted at Rackspace. I've repurposed them so that one of them is now an Ubuntu 22 machine and the other one is a Debian 12. That's improved things on Debian. So I was looking at build queues and where we were having jobs being queued up through executor starvation. So we now have an extra Debian executor, which has helped a bit there. The additional Ubuntu thing meant that we actually had a lot of Ubuntu 22.04 Intel machines, which we sort of need because we run both Commit Linux and the freestyle job that does like the worker testing is also run on that. But I took one of the other Ubuntu 22s and made that another RHEL 9. So I just rebalanced a bit so that we have a more evenly spread, set of machines on the various distros that we have. It's not fully balanced out, but at least more in terms of balanced out so that we don't have so much of a backlog on one particular platform. But yeah, I mean, just an FYI.
Cool. It looks like now we have a backlog on ARM v7L.
Yeah, I took one of the containers offline because it's being used to investigate a libuv issue where they're trying to update libuv to then color release to then put into Node, and the Node CI with the updated libuv is failing on ARM7. So I took that container offline so that they can investigate that. So we are down one ARM7 container. If that proves to be too much of a bottleneck, I guess we'll need to try and create a separate ARM7 container and see if that they can move the debugging into that. And then put
How
the
much is too
back
much?
on. Well, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the queue's like. I haven't seen it. So if it's huge, then maybe
Right now it's 4 on the node test commit ARM.
okay.
4 pending.
We'll keep an eye on that, I guess. It depends whether that's a sustained queue or it gets bigger or it's like bursty where it grows a bit and then shrinks. But yeah,
How do you
that's the main
see
reason for
that?
that is like we're not down one container for that because I mean we
Load statistics on the
yeah
on the label.
We could create new ARM7 containers for debugging purposes for the people that want access. The issue there is then you won't have a C cache, which means your build will take, I think, 6 or 8 hours to compile V8 without a C cache in the ARM7 container, which is just one of those unfortunate, current node with the current V8 without a cache on some of those architectures takes
Yeah, so maybe
very long
that's
time.
related to my V8 update PR.
If it's running in one of those containers, then yeah, effectively we'd only have one container serving jobs. But that's just the way development is, whenever someone patches V8 or something like that, then the build times will go up. But hopefully that's a one, well, not one time, but hopefully it's like whatever build is taking a long time. Once that goes through and is C cached, then hopefully then the subsequent builds in that container will be less. But yeah, we do know that when we patch V8, I think in the release CI you can see it because every time V8 Canary updates, the cross compilation is taking 8 hours or something. And that was something Ryan noted because we replaced. That was one of the things that happened on the old Equinix machines, and we migrated to the new MNX machines. And Ryan did note that the builds were taking up to like 8 hours or even 10, and whether that might mean that we need more powerful or more resources on that machine, which I wouldn't say no to, but yeah, depending on whether MNX would sponsor that or however balanced out that gets. But that was something I was willing to let Ryan look at when he had the time.
Do you want to discuss an additional topic? No. Okay. I think in that case, yeah, that's all for today. I think that's the first time in a while that we finish early on time. So yeah, we saved like 50 minutes from the meeting today. Thank you for joining for the discussion, and for those that are watching us on YouTube as well. Thank you, and see you soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thanks.